Hello everyone, I've been picked as this week's We Are Movie Club video picker thingy, and this week I picked 10 Things I Hate About You, and my quickie review for this is I love this film. This is just one of those brilliant 90s, late 90s, early 2000s teen movies that I've never heard anyone that I've known who hasn't enjoyed watching this film. I just really love the way that this is got so many of the quintessential teen comedy sections to it. The clicked cliches checklist where they go through all the groups in the school and you get it's that group and that group, and the bad teachers and the ridiculous slapstick comedy and all of those things that really just sum up your average teen movie. But then it kind of sends it off into a whole other level, because this isn't your average teen movie, because it's a relationship film. It has these very complex, very interesting characters, particularly Kat, who's played by Julia Stiles, and Heath Ledger's character, who they're just so complicated. And even though there is a lot of deceptions going on there, whether it's lying about the reasons for getting into the relationships or both of them putting on a very different exterior to their internal feelings, they do communicate really well, and there is such a great chemistry and such a odd sense of honesty between these two characters, and they're so well matched. It's such an even relationship, and it's a really good sort of baseline for, I think, a lot of modern relationships. Could go back to watching this film and say, actually we could do with more honesty in this relationship and more just seeing each other for who they actually are. I think it's such a great sort of message in terms of relationship films. As I said, it's very teen in some places. It's got some very funny slapstick comedy, particularly on the part of David Krumholtz, who does a lot of the overarching, over-the-top comedy stuff. I really like the concept that the teachers and the adult characters are also as equally flawed as the children. The father character, who is so obsessed with keeping his children in control and, you know, trying to, rule over them as the adult and trying to make sure that he stays in power, while he himself is worried about his age. He's worried about his bald spot showing, and how Miss Perky is just not a good role model as a sexual deviant, and the teacher in detention who steals the crisps and the weed in order to probably have nefarious purposes. And so it's really nice, considering I work in a job where in the last 3 weeks, I've actually overheard the conversation which goes along the lines of children these days, or teenagers these days, they're all doing this and they're horrible human beings, and I was never like that. And there is a Roman quote that, a Roman soldier was like, teenagers these days, they don't get up until late and they're so lazy. And it's so nice to see a film which respects young people and views them as equal and intelligent and assertive and smart, and in many ways smarter than the adults who are not able to control their flaws so well. Just so much of this film is just amazingly wonderful. The dance sequence and the paintball sequence are some of my favourite films in romantic comedies overall. I think the acting throughout is amazing. Julia Stiles just steals the show, particularly when she's reading the poem, and even though that poem kind of gets on my nerves because I'm constantly trying to count whether or not there's actually 10 things she hates about him, when she just breaks down, it just, in my heart place. Same with Heath Ledger's character. You've got to be able to have an extraordinary acting talent to play off that character who is very manly, very charming, very attractive, and still try and work out all of those things. So the acting throughout, both of the young actors and the old actors, is just so well done. The direction is really good for a first-time movie director and a first-time screenwriter. This is so well done. The screenwriting is amazing in this. Not only does it capture this intelligence of all the characters, but also the way that it plays with words is just timeless. It's got direct quotes from Shakespeare, it's got Shakespeare manipulations, and it's got modern language, and it's timeless, because word manipulations has gone on forever. That's why Shakespeare was so good, because he took words and he messed with them, and that's what teenagers do, and that's what young people have always done. And it's amazing to see it, because unlike Joss Whedon, who don't get me wrong, I love Joss Whedon, but if you go back and watch some of the early Buffy episodes, although a lot of his dialogue is timeless, some of it does get a little bit dated. This film hasn't dated in terms of dialogue. You know, the words are still completely relevant, the plotline is still completely relevant, the characters are still completely relevant 10 years later. The only thing that dates this film is the setting, and to be honest, I grew up in the 90s. I don't mind that setting. I find it really kind of endearing and nostalgic, so I love this film. I think it's a really, really great story. The script is amazing. The acting is beautiful. I love the way that the music is, even though occasionally it is a little bit jarring, the music, because particularly Kat's character is very into a certain type of music, so sometimes that kind of comes off like, you know, they're a little bit over the top, particularly in the prom sequence where the singer comes forward. It feels a little bit like, it's a sweet moment, but it's a little bit just off-putting for me. But so much of this film I love, so much of this film I would recommend. As I said, no one that I've known has not enjoyed this film, so totally watch this film. And that's about it. Just to do some organising things, I'll put a link up to Ray's channel up here, somewhere in this space. He was last week's movie pick, he did Mary and Max. I'll put a link up to Liam Servatorix up in this corner, and he did, well, I don't know what he's going to do for next week, but, and this week from this Saturday onwards, if you upload your reviews for 10 Things I Hate About You and watch whatever Liam picks. And I'm going to put a link down here to draw a little box to a playlist that I'm going to make of all of the movie clubbers so far. So if you are just jumping in and a bit confused about what's going on, if you just follow the leaders instead of looking at every single person's video, eventually we'll get through everyone. And that's about it. Hopefully that's all right and organisy, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys.